Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today we're going to talk about the LA Lakers, who, if we flash back to February 9th, lost to the Bucks and fell to 25-31 in the season, sitting at the 13th seed in the Western Conference. This was a bit of an improvement from where they began the year, as they started off 0-5 and then eventually 2-10, but it still wasn't good. It was nowhere near the championship aspirations that LA has had since they brought in LeBron James, since they traded everything for Anthony Davis. And they did win a title, but since then, it had really been nothing but disappointment. They had a first-round exit, they didn't make the playoffs last year, and it seemed like they were poised to once again waste another year of LeBron and AD on the roster by once again not making the playoffs. But earlier that day, leading up to the deadline, and even earlier in the week, GM Rob Pelinka had kind of been cooking. He's received a lot of slack for the way that he's managed this roster, the signings and trades that he's made over the past couple of years, which I think is very deserved because he's made a lot of just absolutely questionable decisions. But he made a lot of good moves and brought in some really solid names that seemingly made this team a lot better. In total, they traded Russell Westbrook, a first-round pick, Patrick Beverley, and Thomas Bryant to bring in D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, Mo Bamba, as well as Rui Hachimura a few weeks earlier in exchange for Kendrick Nunn. Immediately, LA was named by most people as one of the biggest winners of the deadline, me included. I said that they were my second biggest winner, only behind Phoenix, because you know they traded for Kevin Durant, and it's hard to compete when they make the biggest trade deadline move of all time. Regardless, the Lakers seem to do a lot of things right at this deadline. They addressed a lot of the holes on the team, in particular with spacing, also with some defensive concerns. It just added a lot more depth, which has been a big problem for the Lakers the past couple of years, and the team all around just seemed to make a lot more sense around LeBron James and Anthony Davis as the team's two superstars. But of course, games aren't played on paper. We've seen a lot of teams seemingly have really good off seasons or deadlines, and it hasn't worked out. So it remained to be seen if the Lakers would actually be a lot better like most people anticipated, but they have been. Immediately following the deadline, the Lakers went on a 3-game win streak and everything seemed to be clicking. But in the last game of that streak against the Dallas Mavericks, LeBron suffered a foot injury that left him in a walking boot on some crutches and visibly limping, and eventually he would be ruled out for most of the remaining regular season, if not all of it. We don't know when he's supposed to return. Right now it seems like he should be back before any potential play-in or playoff games, but he's probably only going to have a few games leading into that. So it seemed like the Lakers might be doomed after making these great moves. They lost LeBron James for the remaining stretch of the season for the most part. Could they stay afloat? And to their credit, they have. In games without LeBron James post-deadline, they went 6-4. They've looked really solid. And without LeBron James, the team earlier in the season, they would have completely fallen apart and maybe gone 0-10, maybe like 2-8, 1-9 in these 10 games. Instead, they've held their own, they've remained above 500 and stayed afloat in what is by far the most competitive play-in race we have ever seen. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why the Lakers are just so much better than they were previously, how they've managed to stay competitive without LeBron James, and why I think they're going to be a really tough out in the first round of the playoffs if they end up making it there. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. And let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, before we talk about any of the new additions, we first have to talk about Anthony Davis, who last year had a really down season. He's been plagued by injuries, and it honestly felt like we might have seen the best of Anthony Davis in that 2020 finals run. But no, AD came into the season absolutely on fire. He was dominating, looking like a potential MVP and Defensive Player of the Year candidate if the Lakers could turn their record around. However, he would end up suffering an injury that would cost him 20 games, cost him an all-star spot, and also was one of the reasons why the Lakers remained in the hole that they had been in at the beginning of the season. But thankfully, he's back, and he's still playing some of the best basketball of his entire career. In the 14 games since the deadline, AD's putting up 25 points per game and 14 boards to go alongside a couple of blocks on 52.4% shooting. He's picking his shots carefully, he's knocking them down efficiently, while still being a monster defensively. I really believe if he had played the entire season, he would be one of the frontrunners for the Defensive Player of the Year award, and he's anchored a Lakers defensive unit that's been the second best in the NBA since the trades. The trade deadline acquisitions are really good, but Anthony Davis playing like this is easily the scariest part about the Lakers. When he's performing like this, where you can put up 30 and 10 on your head with 2 blocks, shoot efficiently almost any night while impacting the game defensively outside of the stat sheet, it's really hard to deal with that type of player. He's kind of an enigma. There's really not much you can do, especially now that he's got more help, and when LeBron comes back, he's only going to be more dangerous. Anthony Davis in particular deserves the most credit for the way the Lakers have been performing without LeBron James. But of course, he's gotten some help, and one of the other biggest reasons why the defense has been so good is the play of Jared Vanderbilt, who has always been a Swiss Army knife type defender, but now he's getting national recognition because, of course, he's playing in Los Angeles, and people are realizing, wow, this guy is an incredibly impactful player, even if the stat sheet doesn't always show it. Like, for example, he's averaging 1.5 steals per game since becoming a Laker, which is good, but his impact goes so far beyond that. His ability to roam inside the paint on the perimeter alongside Anthony Davis, play a lot of different defensive roles, which allow AD to potentially be like a free safety type player focused on protecting the rim. It's super valuable to this team, and it allows Darvin Ham to go to so many defensive schemes that he wasn't able to previously when he didn't have a defender like Vando on the roster. He's also putting up around 8 points per game on about 50% shooting, which is fine. That's really all the offense you need from Vando. As long as he's locking up defensively, you'll take basically anything you can get. And the fact that they have him and Anthony Davis patrolling down low and even stepping out to the perimeter if need be is terrifying for opposing scorers. Meanwhile, in the absence of LeBron James, D'Lo is picking up a lot of the slack offensively as a facilitator and a really efficient scorer. As a Laker, he's averaging 19 points per game and 6 dimes, while shooting 50% from the field and 44% from 3. The efficiency is there, the playmaking is there, the volume's there. He's doing everything that you could ask from him and more. This includes a 28-point game against the Raptors and a 33-point game against the Knicks. He's knocking down his threes, he's attacking inside, he's creating advantages for others, and having this secondary playmaker that can also stretch the floor is so valuable for the Lakers. And if he can do anything similar to this when LeBron comes back, it's terrifying offensively. He fits so perfectly on this roster and into the scheme of what Darvin Ham and the Lakers have been trying to do. As much as I love Russ, dealing him for D'Angelo Russell made perfect sense, and it was one of the best moves that Rob Pelinka has made recently to just all around improve the fit of the team. Then there's Malik Beasley, who's also providing some really solid spacing for this team, shooting 35.6% from deep as a Laker. You might want to see that come up a little bit, but he's always kind of been a streaky shooter. There are going to be some nights where he'll shoot like 1 for 8 from 3. There will be some nights where he shoots 6 of 7, 6 of 8. It's just kind of the Malik Beasley experience, and I think Lakers fans are kind of figuring that out over these past few games. But just having a guy that could potentially go out and hit 4 or 5, even 6 threes is a brand new concept for this Lakers roster. They really haven't had someone like that in the past few years outside of like maybe Malik Monk last season. But now having that potential offensive explosion type guy that can knock down threes consistently if you need to make a comeback, it's huge. Then you've got Rui Hachimura, who has kind of flown under the radar, but he's also been really solid, averaging 10 points per game and 5 boards with LA, which is really all you need from a solid role player. But especially recently over his last 4 games, he's been huge, putting up 14.3 points per game on 64% shooting, giving them a much needed boost offensively. Because while he's been solid, D'Lo's been good, AD's been good, Beasley's been knocking down threes here and there, the Lakers have still struggled offensively. They've been the 21st ranked unit since the deadline, which is part of why they've only hovered a bit above 500. But once again, this is without LeBron James. When LeBron comes back, the Lakers are going to be adding a near 30 point per game scorer who is still one of the best playmakers in the entire sport to the equation. So you've got D'Lo shooting well, Beasley shooting well, AD playing well offensively. LeBron's just going to make the game easier for every single one of them. He's going to give them more looks, take some of the pressure off as well, just open the game up for everybody. And for LeBron, the game will also be easier because, like I said, Anthony Davis is playing well. He has more spacing with Beasley, with D'Lo. This team is just going to get so much better offensively the second LeBron is added to the equation that I wouldn't be surprised if they shot up from the 21st ranked offense over the course of this post-trade deadline period all the way up to a top 10 unit. And if they can do that while also maintaining this amazing defense anchored by Jared Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis, if they could even just be a top 10 or top 5 unit the rest of the way, the Lakers are really scary. They could be a top 10 unit on both sides of the ball. 2 superstars surrounded by a great cast of role players. They look like one of the scariest teams in that play-in tournament range. And this brings me to their current state in terms of the playoff race. Right now, they're the 10th ranked team in the conference, but they have a fairly easy schedule ahead of them. In fact, according to Tankathon.com, they have the easiest remaining schedule out of any team in the NBA. If they can just stay right around 500 until LeBron comes back, they have a real shot to potentially make it up to a 5 or a 6 seed if the Clippers or Warriors fall off in a big way. But I think it's more realistic that they probably end up at the 7 or 8 seed, giving them a chance to win one of 2 play-in games to eventually make the playoffs. And if they do make it, they're a squad that no team really wants to face in that first round. I think they match up pretty well with the current 1-seeded Denver Nuggets. Anthony Davis gives a big body to match up against Nikola Jokic. Jared Vanderbilt, I think, can play some really solid defense on Michael Porter Jr. The rest of the guys are going to have to step up in a big way, but I do think they can make life difficult for the 1-seeded Denver Nuggets. Now, I probably still am taking Denver to win that series because they have Jokic and an incredible cast of shooters and solid players outside of him, but I don't think it's a pushover for Denver. I think the Lakers could give them a really good fight. And probably an even more ideal scenario for Los Angeles is if they face off against the Grizzlies. If they make it up to the 7 seed, the Grizzlies stay at the 2 seed, fight off the Kings, there's a real chance that Memphis might be without Ja Morant for that series. We don't know when he's going to return. And even if he does, Steven Adams is still dealing with an injury. We don't know when he's going to be back. Brandon Clark is out for the season. I think the Lakers could potentially have a real shot to upset that Grizzlies team that is currently in turmoil. And if they win one series and get a favorable second round matchup, the Lakers could potentially go on a run to the conference finals. I don't think it's out of the question. I don't think it's likely, but the fact that they can even say that there's a possibility of that at this point speaks to how much better they are after these trade deadline moves, how solid this roster looks. And that's kind of where I'm projecting a bit towards the future, because I think even if they don't make the playoffs this year or they're an early exit, they're set up so much better than they have been in past years to make a run next season. They bring back D'Angelo Russell, who is still relatively young and feels like a great point guard for the future. They've got LeBron, they've got Anthony Davis, they retain some of these guys. They've still got that very valuable 2029 first round pick that they could trade to upgrade the roster if they decide to do so. There are so many avenues to this Lakers team getting a lot better in the offseason when they already have gotten a lot better over the course of this year in itself. So like I said, regardless of if they make the playoffs, if they make a run, they don't make the playoffs, whatever, they're set up so well both now and for the future, and Rob Pelinka deserves a lot of credit. Like I said, he got a lot of slander for the moves that he made over the past few years, which once again was deserved, but he completely flipped the script. He had one of the best deadlines I've seen out of any general manager in recent history. He turned this team around, he capitalized at the perfect moment, used his assets wisely, and there's still so much room for him to make the team better. He's got them well positioned to maybe make a playoff run, and next year, maybe make a run at an NBA title. With all that being said, I appreciate y'all watching. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It helps the channel out a ton. Also, comment down below letting me know, what do you think about this Lakers team? Do you think they could make a playoff run? Do you think they'll make the playoffs? And do you think that they could compete for a championship either this year or next season? I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real One, say it back.